Good morning. It is Saturday, the 9th of November, 2019. Bitcoin prices have pulled back a little bit, but they are giving us some bullish indicators in the charts. And I want to go through our review and see what we're seeing for today. Well, let's check it out in today's episode of the 24 Hours of Bitcoin. Now, of course, this isn't trading advice, just market observation. You can pause the video to read through the disclaimer. I am going to double check this chat review thing here because the chat box was working before I started the stream, and now it is not working along the side. That is such a pain in the ass. Let's just jump in and take a look at our charts. I'm going to go through this in 10 minutes. Here we are looking at Bitcoin RSI. And in the RSI view, I've been watching for this uptrend for a long time, watching to see when we're following along this pattern. So far, it's all working pretty good. Now we're going to zoom in for the rest of the episode and pay attention to the close range. As we're zooming in on this, we have lows and highs, but we've got higher highs all the way along. So this is a divergence that we saw in the setup down here. Of course, we had a whole bunch more sideways to go, and that could certainly be the case right now. But since we have this divergence and the same setup here, I'm kind of not expecting it to be going down, except that if we break these levels, it's going to be a very clear indication that we are going down. And so I want to identify those levels right now. So here we are with that bullish divergence again in the RSI setting up here on the 12-hour time frame. I'm going to zoom in now, and from this time frame, I want to pay attention to how the RSI is changing throughout this period of time to match to see what we're seeing here. Now let's zoom into the 1-hour time frame, and from this view we can zoom back and see how this played itself out, and that we are doing something similar, but we can't break down below these levels because we will have a 1, 2, 3 touches of death top formation in kind of a bear flag setting up there. So we can see very clearly exactly where the RSI is going to be friend or foe for bears and bulls rather. Let's go into the next indicator. We're going over the on-balance volume. I want to always compare the on-balance volume against what happened in this period of time in the past to see that in the weekly view, we're still good. It could be turning around to the bullish, right? If you're really trying to search for bullishness. Now in the daily, I don't like that we've come down below these levels and that we've got this much selling volume in here. We still have a nice bullish divergence as we had set up through here, but I don't like it, that last little bit at the tip. Let's zoom in to see what's going on with the character of this selling right here, especially as we compare it to this. We had quite a bit more selling through this period than here. So that again is another bullish divergence. Now on the 4-hour time frame, I want to zoom in and take a look at the character of the dumping and what can we expect if we are going to turn into a bullish or if we stay bearish. What are the things we should be expecting? Because here the 4-hour exponential moving average has crossed negative. That is a pretty important negative sign for me. Here we have dumping and less dumping. We have to see this quick switch to positive here, at least on the 1-hour time frame, before we're going to get any juice. We really have to see that switching over. So if you're parked on this page and you're watching this indicator, that's what you'd be looking for. If we zoom in now to the 15-minute time frame, I'm just not seeing supporting buying volume under this. I'm seeing that it's resisting the selling volume, but I'm not seeing supporting buying volume that I was wanting as I started out this episode. That's why I do this episode. Now if we go into the next indicator and it comes up, we're looking at MACD, one of my favorite, and this is still negative on the long term for the weekly. If I zoom into the daily, this has crossed to the negative just as it did here, so I'm really watching. It didn't cross to the negative here. It did cross to the negative here and stay flat all the way along. So let's see what's going on as we zoom in on the 12-hour time frame. We see it pulling back, and it wasn't pulling back as deeply when we did this recovery right here. So not as good. The one thing I am liking in this is that we have these higher lows all the way along, and this is a bullish divergence overall. And if we pull this back and we compare it, yes, we had a bullish divergence here too before we went sideways all the way along. So a lot of the bullishness is setting up. We just have to see it confirm. Now, if we go into the 4-hour time frame, this is one thing that we saw a good confirmation in for this turnaround here. When that crossed, we were on our way up. So I want to pay attention when this crosses, what's going on, especially if we zoom in now to the 1-hour time frame and we see back here that we had the cross earlier in that parallel. Now we already have the cross in the 1 hour. So if the 1 hour maintains and keeps itself and the 4 hour follows, I'm going to be watching for that big spike to come back up again. Let's go and see what Ichimoku Cloud is telling us. How many minutes I have left? I'm doing it. In 5 minutes, I can do it all. So, weekly, Ichimoku Cloud. The blue is below the red. That's bearish, generally. If I go into the daily time frame, this was looking more bullish earlier, but as we were saying, so long as it stays above this cloud, we're not too bad. I don't see the red and the blue line. They must be matched right one on top of each other. No, I see the blue line is still above the red here. We're still twisted to the positive. The trailing indicator is almost still holding that positive view. So if we come back up out of this cloud, that's going to be very important. And I think we will absolutely melt through this range as well. Just as we did through the $6,000 range and no one was expecting it back here. We all thought that would be super support and resistance. We just went right through it and sat on top of it. So if we go right through this and sit on top of it, wow, is that ever going to be crazy? So I want to really document this day by day. Now, as we zoom into the 12-hour time frame, this is more negative. We have a cross to the negative here. The trailing indicator is starting to flag a little bit. We have just touched below the cloud, but we really have a good thick positive cloud here, so it's holding itself. The 4-hour time frame, we saw this cross. We saw the MACD's cross. We saw everything cross at this very time as this 1, 2, 3 top formation set up. So in the shorter time frame, as we were zoomed in, this chart spoke to us. Now we have to see this cross back to the positive and the cloud twist back to the positive. Really, if this is going to be doing it, and we got to see it in the shorter time frames now too. Let's zoom in. The 1 hour time frame still not doing it. If it's breaking out of this, it's going to do it sharply. What happened before? Well, it just blasted right through. There's like, this didn't give us any warning. The MACD gave us warning, the RSI gave us warning, and the Bollinger Bands gave us warning, but not Ichimoku. This gave us afterwards. So I'm not really, I don't know. We'll see how that goes over the next few days. Can I pull this back far enough? No, it won't give me enough data for me to go back now and compare how the 15-minute went through the chart. I would have to go back to the video from that day in order to review how did the 15-minute compare against the 1 hour as we were setting up through that sideways channel. Now when we get to the Bollinger Bands, now this has got some different information that I want to go through. Really key stuff. So the first thing I'm observing is that we are still below the weekly midline here. Let me clear that off, drag this back to where we were below the weekly midline. All the way along here, we're below the weekly midline. And as we cross the weekly midline, we still didn't get a clean move through. So let's just pay attention to that as we are going through the charts now, because I'm expecting that we are going to go up through that weekly midline. And one thing I didn't show on that earlier chart was the width of the cloud. So the cloud is still very thick and wide as we are below the midline of the cloud. So I'm watching for the cloud to shape up and get more thin before we're doing something. And we'll see how that goes, because on the weekly, it's still very thick. Now, as I start to zoom into the daily, this is important because we have crossed below the midline here. And I'm watching all sorts of different areas in the past. Where did it cross the midline and how thick was the cloud at the same time? So this isn't really telling us that we're in for a really big move yet, because the cloud is so wide. When it comes into a narrow squeeze, then we're going to be getting into a bigger move relative to this chart, according to my observations. Now, I want to compare more specifically what happened to the Bollinger Bands during this move right here. We can see that we came outside of the band on the 12-hour view while it was widening and keeping, it's not flaring out so much at the top, right? The top is keeping flat, but the bottom is going wide. And this is something new to me. I'm just observing it. And I want to pay attention to what happened to the 12-hour at this time frame as we're zooming in now. The 4-hour time frame, it also came outside of the cloud both times. Then it went into the cloud sideways, cloud band, into the Bollinger Band sideways. We did have a 1, 2, 3 formation set up. We did have really good MACD crosses. We had all of that stuff setting up at this time frame as we were coming out of the bands this way. So now I want to zoom into the closer time frames because we're getting into the crossover of the band right there in the 1-hour time frame. But the 1-hour time frame didn't cross over the band as bullishly before. It stayed sideways in the mid band. And we went sideways with a very much more narrowing channel than we have yet right now. This channel has to narrow sideways longer to give us the same setup as we had before, especially if we're expecting that 4-hour MACD to cross positive. I ran out of my 10 minutes. I didn't make it. So the 1 hour I'm paying attention to because it's already crossed over the midline. Therefore, it's giving us a more clear place to identify a bear flag or a bullish turnaround. Now this is more bullish to me because it's crossed over the midline, but if it crosses back below the midline, it's confirming more of the bear. So I like to have it that clear like this. Get into the 15-minute, it's less clear. So I'll be watching that 1 hour MACD as we're moving our Bollinger Band as we're moving through the day today. A few more slides to finish her up. Let's go over to Bitcoin dominance is slipping off, which means that the alts are rising up. At the same time, it's staying above this pattern. And last time, even though we had a very good dip in the Bitcoin dominance here, when Bitcoin turned around, the alts got slapped. And we can go through the altcoins and we can just quickly grab a few of them. Let's get rid of the indicator. Go back to this day. Many of the alts, if I go to the 4-hour time frame, it's a little easier to see it. Many of the alts were looking pretty good. We had this nice build-up formation going. Bitcoin dominance dropped sharply. And then as Bitcoin took off, dominance rose and the alts really took a slap. And so I'm paying close attention to the alts having a potential top formation while Bitcoin is doing this. Because if they are failing out of these top formations, then we should see the relative strength index being a negative divergence. We should see the MACD starting to give us a short-term negative divergence. And all of those indicators should be setting up. That will be on our afternoon live stream over on the Intro to Cryptos stream. Be sure to come over and join us on Discord so that you get updates on those when I am going live. The last thing I want to finish up with is an observation of the longs versus the shorts, because I really don't know how this chart pattern correlates really. But what I want to pay attention to is the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th, because we can see through this very same time frame right here that as we were going sideways through this 2 days of period, the longs really went up through that period of time. Then as we started to blast off, the longs took their profits all the way along. They took their profits and they were pretty much out of their position. Then they're FOMOing back in, right, as prices were doing this. But as they're easing off, they're going, oh shit, I'm closing my long position because I think it's going down. And then as things are coming up, everybody's jumping back into their long positions and they haven't really closed out of them that significantly yet. As we've come back to this position, the longs haven't closed their positions significantly enough yet. So this is one of the most important things for a bearish view, that if this is a bear flag, we'll see a continuation down out of this. And I want to observe our indicators as this is unfolding, because throughout this period of time, the same period of time, here, look at the same chart, Bitcoin, and then we go through the same period of time for the shorts. They were also thinking it's going to go down more. So they're building up their shorts as we're going sideways. Then they were proven wrong and everybody is closing because they're taking huge losses. And since then, the shorts haven't really picked up. So we're going across this similar sideways action and we're getting a bit of a bullish setup, but not getting the same set. The shorts are not piling up as much as they did on the last one. So let's observe this over time and see how this manifests, because it is a new observation for me. I am just checking this daily so that we can come back over time and really make some correlations that in the future we can make some sense out of it. Now, I haven't checked the chat. Let me go back over here. Hey, Mr. Adikul, good to have you along from England. Dan, good to have you here. Earl, good morning. Dean H, good morning, all the crypto junkies for sure. Can I check Matic, Rep, and Vet? Matic, let's start off and go Matic. Binance, get rid of, no, gotta keep that. Scroll down to Matic. All right, so it's beautiful. BTC, Binance, get rid of my favorites. 1, 2, 3, big down, scroll down, 4 scrolls to Matic. Well now. Zoom right out, trying to get a longer term perspective because, of course, I'm going through this very same thing in Bitcoin and looking for the MACD to be crossing out of a 1, 2, 3 formation. This is the number 1 point, really. And we have a positive cross here. We have a positive cross here. So it is a nice setup. This is a nice little 1, 2, 3 setup here that could have been a trend continuation formation for sure as we came up out of this. Absolutely could have been a trend formation, trend continuation. So as I zoom into the 12 hour now, I'm paying attention to the cross at this perfect time in the 1, 2, 3. It's very nice, really ideal for picking up a position. The 12 hours crossed positive, crossed back to positive again. So that just supports the trend continuation formation data. So we have a bottom formation. It went up, it's consolidated, made a new internal 1, 2, 3, and giving us the trend continuation. Juicy. And yet, because I'm afraid of Bitcoin doing the same thing and giving us this happening in this alt, I want to pay attention, and it may not manifest, but I just want to be aware of it. I want to know that when the 4 hour is crossing to the negative and flaring wide off of this level, it's probably negative for the alts, and Bitcoin is probably taking off at the same time. So if I am seeing confirmation of Bitcoin giving strength, I will come into these alts, and this is what I'll be looking for. Is the 4 hour MACD crossing over? Really? How about the 1 hour? This is harder to judge because it does go wild more. It oscillates. So really, it's coming up to this potential top formation. Bitcoin is giving the potential. And if I was already in a position on this because of this 1, 2, 3, and I thought, oh yeah, it's coming, I'm going to just get into a little small position. Hopefully I'd have my stop above my entry, and I'm not going to sweat it. Whatever it's going to do, I'm going to let the market do it. So long as I have my stop above my entry, I'm not going to overthink all of this analysis that I just did, that it might this way, might that way. If my stop is above my entry, my job is finished, and I'll just let it play out because I want to be there just in case it does go way up and Bitcoin drops. This is the formation I look for, and I try not to overthink it. I put in a small bit. The smaller I do, the better I do in the long term. What was the other one? Hey, Pedro, good to have you along. Oliver, thank you. I appreciate the nice work. And I really am super excited to hear your success stories. And if you're finding this helpful and you want more, you could support this project, this channel, not through just a socialist donation, but through getting real data through our Patron Bull Market Watch spreadsheet. Crazy data that tells you exactly what to buy, when to buy, and when to get out. So you can see all of our alts got us in September to October, And then we were aware of it for a long time as they were setting up. We tried a few of these and then we got out. The exponential moving average kicked us out. And so now we're watching, and there are some really great setups, but you can see here that we will get into all of the coins that should get into, and we'll get out of them when we should get out of them. The two magic parts of trading. You can put those together. It is money in the bank. And I want to help you guys. I want to help me, and I can help you at the same time by doing these videos. So give me your success stories. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. All of those things help support the channel. Rep does look like it's staging to go higher. These are potential for exhaustion candles at this point as well. So I really would pay attention to this trend line, and I wouldn't sweat it if I was fortunate enough to be, and I'm not, if I was fortunate enough to have purchased into this one specifically, I would now have my stop above my entry, and I wouldn't be getting out of this until the 4-hour exponential moving average crossed over, even if it broke down here and did a big deep move and then pulled up. I would take that loss and I would get out after the 4-hour EMA crosses over. I want to err on the side of being ready for the fact that these cryptocurrencies are manipulated, and I want to be on the correct side of it, right? So I want to leave my stop losses so that I can benefit from those manipulations. Solve. Okay, I'm not sure about Solve. That's a new one to me, so I'm looking forward to it. Let's go on to VET. Now, VET, I did the study on it this morning, and it was already into a hold status for our setup because it did the 1, 2, 3 bottom formation. It broke above these levels. The 12-hour exponential moving average crossed over. Tons of nice volume going on. So all of the indicators were there. We can see this positive, positive, positive as all this is setting up. Really great. And then have your stop above it and stop thinking. Leave it alone. Stop looking at it. Go away. Because our job is only to prevent ourselves from losses. It is not our job to make money. So once we are in a profitable position, you got your stop loss above your entry, your job is finished. Don't micromanage it anymore. We'll come back to it in a few weeks if it doesn't kick you out. If it comes back and it stops you out, okay, we can look at it again later. But leaving that trading is a part of preparation, and then there's a part surrender. So the holder in us wants to hold things that are going down just in case it goes back up. But that's the time to be getting out, right? Now, once we have a stop above our entry, that's the time to hold. That's the time to surrender. This is not the time to hold. As it's crossing that level and we are seeing the top formations, got to go. The 12-hour EMA crossed over. So let's watch for that as this unfolds. And I am super excited again to hear your success stories. Let's go over and see Solve, and then we'll do Chainlink and Tezos. Tezos. I'm going to do this same chart. So we have the MACD underneath, and I'll go search for Solve now. Okay. Well, it doesn't, it's different than the other altcoins. It went up through April, May, and June, where everything else topped out right here and was coming down. So that it's topped out and coming down is interesting. Very interesting that it did something very different than the other coins. So there's something really important about the technology and the marketing and everything that went on in this. And then, you know, eventually it's pulled back along with Bitcoin. So I don't know. Let's zoom in. 12-hour time frame. The MACD is crossing more and more positive. We have a good divergence over time. Let's go to the weekly view. Not very much for weekly view. The 3-month view. This I would constitute this as a trend continuation, and this is the 1, 2, 3 bottom formation breakout where you could buy on the breakout, and it's more often now the more difficult time to be getting into a 1, 2, 3 bottom formation. Whereas it's better to just relax and let the market have the time to come back and retest this. It seems to always do it. As it retests and stays above these levels and then starts to show strength, it's a better buy signal. And I would be really small on it because I don't know it, but it is giving the pattern. So I try not to overthink it. It gives the pattern, I do a little bit of it. And then I wait for the 4-hour exponential moving average to cross back to the negative. So we already have the 12-hour cross to the positive, coming back to support these levels. A break above this is enough. It's worth enough to salt just a little bit of investment into it, with the plan that if it were to bounce these levels, come back and retest and give me another 1, 2, 3 in the future, I would then add on to it, because it's already done some pretty big moves, and it's never going to do it just, well, it may do it straight up, and we have a strategy to get ready for that. But mostly I would just take a small bit of my position and I would look to add on to it on something like this, just as we saw set up in Raven coin. So that nobody's requested it, but I'm going to bring up Raven. 1, 2, 3, 4. PQR, RVN. One-year view. 12-hour view. Okay, not Raven coin, basic attention token. Looking at this chart going, wait a second now. BAT did a better setup where we had the one, this is classic. This is textbook. It's exactly what you look for to try to find. The break of the 1, 2, 3 bottom formation came back and retested it. So we have both of our entry signals right there and there. Now our stop loss is above our entry and we can sit. It's come back and pulled back to, what is it? Pretty much exactly the 50% level. What time is it here? Okay, I'm good. 50% level. Then it did a tiny little 1, 2, 3 bottom formation and broke above it. So long as we are seeing this and we don't break this trend line, this has done a beautiful, beautiful textbook buy, wait for it, add on, and sit pattern. Now we've been able to safely build a really good position in this. And now we have a larger position and we can just sit and wait and see what goes on in this over time. It's going to be crazy. I love these patterns, and there's many more of them setting up. If you're keen and you're interested in that kind of stuff, the Bull Market Watch report you can get from intro-to-cryptos.ca. But if you're wanting more data and you want the actual pro alerts, be sure to check out the website for those as well. Come over and join us on Discord. If you have any questions, we'd be super excited to answer them. Now we got a couple more coin requests. Yes, RVN does look nice. I have some from mining as well. I mined them onto a paper wallet and put that in the safety deposit box at the bank. So we'll see what goes on in the years to come. All right, great to see. Let's go to Chainlink and Tezos. I love the feedback there, Dan. I love it. Let's play that out and hear it in the future. I'm looking for a link, which is hard to do the alphabet backwards, you know. All right, so Link also gave us a trend continuation formation. And here in the RSI, we could see a nice divergence as it was setting up. Right across here. As it broke these levels, it was giving us more confirmation. And I did a video about it. The one thing I was worried about is these exhaustion wicks up here. But now that it's broken out above it, this is like salting a little wee bit of the position if you weren't already in it. And for my own part, I've been in it since last December. Where was it? December 15th, thereabouts. So I purchased in here out of this consolidation. And I didn't sell out here as it did this. But I did sell out part of my trade here and part of my trade here. So I took some profit, and I'm holding some profit that I never even thought about selling out at all as it did this move back at all. Would have been better if I'd have sold it and rebought it here, but I bought, sold, and now I have part of my profit to just hold on to. And we'll see what happens over time. I'm not going to play. I'm not going to add on to this right now. I'm just going to play with my profit. But of course, the signal's there, right? That's clear signal right there. Let's drag this back, clear this off, and there's one more. If you've got one more coin request, I can do that, then I'll be zipping off. Let's go to Tezos, T-E. What are the call letters for Tezos? XTZ? Let's go to it. Crazy. 1, 2, 3. Breakout. Retest. Breakout. All of it's there. The relative strength index is all setting up. This trading plan really works. The difficulty is being there to work it, to go through all the spreadsheets every day and to be there on the day when it's going, to know in advance that this is a 1, 2, 3 and that we have an alert set up for this and that you should be alert, right? You could put your limit order in above the market because we're starting off with a very small bit of our position. If it comes up, then you're going to be watching it. You got tagged in. It's immediately your job now to protect this against losses. You are a pilot taking off on a new flight. You're going down the runway at the very stage 2 of the trade, the very beginning of it. This is your job, your responsibility to make sure that you get your stop above your entry. Then it's time to put it on autopilot and sit back and wait for the add-on position. Wait for it to come back and do the add-on. Don't even worry about it. It's going to do it. So for right now, what do I say about, for me, this is out of my trading plan now. It's gone too far, and it would be more of a gamble for me to be trading in it, except that now that it's come to a point of a triangle, for my own part, the risk to reward ratio is more clear. You know that if you buy above there and it comes down to here, you know you're wrong, and it's easier to get out, and there's a very small little zone to know you're right and wrong. But for my own part, when I go to the long-term history, I have no idea if this is high compared to what it's been in the past. I don't know if it's outperforming some of the other cryptos compared to what it's done in the past. So I have to be even smaller than on a trade like this because it's so unknown, so speculative. And then it's just my risk control rules. It doesn't really matter. I only hold it if it proves me correct. I buy it. If it continues to prove me correct, I can get my stop above my entry. We're good. I don't care. The pattern on the chart, you could flip a coin, really, so long as I use those risk control rules properly. But if I am going to trade according to my plan, this one, I say, awesome. What a great example. What a beautiful case study. Can I find something else that is now in this position that hasn't quite broken out yet? Because they're going to be all over the place. Once we start to see them going, I want to shop for those that are set up. That's because I'm not really studying the fundamentals. I'm not reading up on the projects themselves. I'm really relying on the market and the chart to tell me which are the ones that are going and which are the ones that aren't. So if I go back to the Patreon Bull Market Watch spreadsheet, go to the cover sheet, and while the spreadsheet is updating itself, this data is accurate. We can see that we have 14% of Poloniex in alert status now. 21% are up into alert status. We're down to 51% neutral status. We're up to more hold status coins. We were at 16% the other day, then 18%. Now we're at 20% hold status coins. That's 20% out of 170 coins. These are the coins to be holding. And I don't have to do the research on the project. Everybody else has done the research. They're already putting their money into it. I can see it, and I can just coattail on it. That's the plan here, is to diversify, coattail onto what's moving. Just sit back on the things that are not moving. Use our risk control rules, and it really works out. So I will sign off for here and look forward to chatting with you guys over on our Discord chat. Let's watch and see what happens with this. As this unfolds, we'll be posting screenshots of these specifics for our determination. Cryptos and coffee. Hey, good to have you along, JG. Not that I'm dyslexic. Okay, we got a couple more coin requests. I'm a cryptoaholic. I can't resist. I got to do the MACD though. ADA I'm super excited about. And I got to go step back so that we can see why the excitement, because it made this kind of formation in the past, right? We had this movement that it did great power, gave us some really clear signals, really nice exit signals as well. It was just so clean, such a nice trading chart. Now we've come sideways for a long time, right? Almost 3 months sideways. And if we take that and stand it up, it's nothing to expect it, crazy as it seems, to be going up these kind of amounts. If I grab the shift and give us some percentages, 300% gains just to go back up to where we were already this year. And there's nothing compared to where we are going over the next 18 months. It's insane. That's 3,000. That's 2,000% gains, roughly. So even if we say, oh, it's just 1,000% gains, it's crazy. This is definitely the time to be salting into a position out of these bottoms and building on it. At the same time, we have a potential top formation. And this coin really got wrecked pretty hard when Bitcoin did its thing. So given a top formation, the MACD crossing negative on the 1 hour time frame, just about knocked over my coffee, with Bitcoin setting up here. And if Bitcoin goes, this is diving. I don't want to be super long on ADA out of this position right now. As bullish as I am in the long term, short term, I think there is more punishment. And I absolutely could be wrong, but this doesn't make me feel good about it. Doesn't seem like it's really building. If it breaks above these levels and we get some stability above it and Bitcoin is flagging sideways, okay, but I'm freaked. I'm kind of worried about it. TZO, there's another one I don't know. TZO, it's one that Coinigi doesn't know either too. Cool. Pedro, good to have you here. Cryptoholics Anonymous. I did a video about in 2017, December 2017, 2 sure signs that you are addicted to crypto trading. And of course, at that time, I was addicted to crypto trading. I was holding my alts as they were sliding down and Bitcoin was mooning. I was making money US dollars on my alts, but I was going crazy because I knew that I should have been holding Bitcoin and I couldn't switch because it was just about to go the other way. So it was high stress time, high maintenance time. I've changed the way I think and feel about altcoins since then, and I don't allow myself that same focus because I put my stop above my entry and then I stop watching it. But this kind of stuff, if I'm in a trade, I'm kind of really watching this to be pulling back from here. I just don't like it. With Bitcoin moving and this dropping, let's watch how this plays out in our live stream here today or in the Discord chat. Boom. That's it for today's episode. Let's go back to Bitcoin and see what's going on. This last second, zoom right in. No details yet. We're just going to keep watching it through the day now as it goes sideways. And if we start to get some changes, especially in the 4-hour and the 1-hour MACDs, that'll be news. Thanks again for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow on the next episode of the 24 Hours of Bitcoin.